Welcome everyone to another CTC Software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis. I'm the Technical Evangelist at CTC, and I am here today to show you the BIM Project Suites tool called Renumbering, the free tool. And we're going to go over a fairly comprehensive introduction to that tool today so you can understand exactly how it works and what it can do for you. Let's kind of start out with just a little bit of housekeeping things. As usual, we are recording the webinar and it will be posted to YouTube in the future, so you can always come back and review this or share this with other team members as needed. And also, as always, I keep an eye on the questions window, so by all means, throw questions in there and we will be answering those in line as they come up, or certainly at the end, of course, there will be a large Q&A session as well. So let's talk about the renumbering tool itself. Anytime any of us need to go through the act of doing massive renumbering, it's kind of frustrating. I mean, if it's one room or one door that needs its number updated, no big deal. But when it's a number of them, when it's a whole bunch of them in a series, and we have to mindlessly go through the process of clicking each room or each room tag or each door or door tag, and then clicking into that tag and then typing a value and going to the next one and doing that over and over and over again, that's kind of frustrating, especially when we get those dialogues that pop up that talk about, hey, there's a duplicate of such and such a number. That's frustrating too, because then, I mean, for good housekeeping, we should really go through and find those and clean them up as well, but that takes time. And the same is true with views, except for that one doesn't just warn you that there's a duplicate, but I mean, you have to give it a unique number. Grid lines, views, other items like that, sometimes you have to give them unique numbering. And it's no fun to have to go through that exercise. It's just not the most efficient thing. So in this little webinar today, I want to show you exactly how you can go through and streamline that whole process with this free tool called Renumbering out of the BIM Project Suite. There's a couple of things that I'm going to go over. I want to show you exactly how you can get your hands on the suite in case you don't already have it installed on your Revit session. I'm going to take you a little bit through the interface to explain some of what's going on in there, and I'm going to define exactly what the different renumbering rules are. There's a couple of things you can do, and some of them are specific to the object type that you're actually doing renumbering on. And then I'm going to show it happening live. I'm going to execute renumbering on a couple of different kinds of elements and show you what that workflow looks like and how it feels to the end user. First, we're going to talk about how you can get your hands on this in case you don't already have it installed. What you're going to do is go up to the ctcsoftware.com website here. And from the ctcsoftware.com website, you're going to go into Products, and you're going to go to the BIM Project Suite for 2022. You can try this suite free for 14 days if you don't want to purchase the full suite, and that's totally fine because the actual BIM, or the renumbering tool itself is free and will continue to work after that 14-day trial anyway. So there's no need to actually purchase for this particular tool we're talking about in today's webinar. So try it out. Go get it, download it, install it on your Revit, and it'll work. And as you can notice up here, this product works from 2019 through Revit 2022 in the current installation. All right, so we know how to get it, and you know how to install it. Well, I'm just going to download it and then run the installer with Revit closed. So let's go through live in Revit, the user interface, and how this tool is supposed to function for you. So I've got Revit pulled up here. I'm in just a Revit project model. And where you can access this tool is up here on the CTC Software tab. This tab will automatically show up when you have any of the CTC software suites installed. The BIM Project Suite over here is the suite that we're going to be talking about today. Now, by default, when you first install this, if it's the very first time it's ever been installed, you're probably going to want to go to the collection of free icons. There's actually just one single button that says Free Tools. And in there, go into Suite Settings. This will give you easier access to the renumbering tool in the future. There's a checkbox right here that I recommend you check. Use small icons. Then your ribbon will look exactly like how my ribbon looks like. Now, if you don't want to use small icons and you want the larger icons, that's perfectly fine. I recommend, though, that you uncheck the Group Free Tools under a single button. This tool is one that I think you'll be using on a regular basis, and there's no point in adding extra clicks. So I think you should simply uncheck this box, or if you check this one, this will automatically get unchecked, and then save and just restart your Revit. And what that'll do is it'll make it look exactly like how mine looks here, where you're going to have renumbering sitting out here as a single button able to be clicked. Now, let's see why I might want to use this tool. Let's go to a floor plan. Actually, I have a floor plan already opened up here. So we're going to use this floor plan. In my floor plan, there's a series of rooms over here, and I'm going to start renumbering these guys. In fact, this one right here, the entry room, 128, I want to renumber that to be 100, and I'm going to start going around the floor plan here. And this is going to be 101, 102, 103. Now, to be clear, there's already some of those rooms over here. There's a 100 and a 101, and there's actually a 102 A and B, and that's fine. There's some 103 someplace out here, but I want to renumber these starting over here. Maybe I wanted to relay out the floor plan or something. And then ultimately, I want things like these door numbers to realign with their associated rooms. So we're just going to do a couple right here and show you how this works. And I'm going to go into this training room up here as well and get this renumbered so we can actually renumber 2 doors in the same space in a moment here. The other thing that we're going to do a little later on is we're going to take a look at wall sections over here, detail views on sheets, and we're going to talk about renumbering these views because there's some annoyances there. Before we dig into either of those two things, though, let's take a look at the user interface of renumbering. So I'm going to go back here and just pan this out to the side so we have a blank screen to look at and we can focus on just the tool itself. Renumbering here, when I open this up, should open up on my screen, have some options inside of here that lets me have just some basic settings all set up, some sequences perhaps that I want to skip. But ultimately right here, there's a few types of elements that have specialized renumbering. Rooms have their own specialized numbering, areas, spaces, doors have their own grid lines, detail numbers, and then there's a general tab here that lets you renumber anything using the default Revit mark parameter value. Now, a lot of these tabs look somewhat similar, right? My Rooms tab looks similar to my General tab over here, other than the fact that there's a note up here telling me a little bit of extra information. The key is that we have the ability with most of these renumbering systems to prefix the actual number with something. I can also start the sequence with a specific value, like in the case of my Rooms, I mentioned I was going to start with 100. Now, if this was a specific building, maybe what I would want to do is prefix this with the building number. If this is building A, maybe I put A dot, and it's going to put A dot 100 or 101 or 102, and it's going to continually increment this number and prefix always with that building number. Maybe it's, building, A1 dot. Whatever you want to put, you can put whatever your building prefix is for the room numbers. I know a lot of times in campus projects, we leverage that. There's also the opportunity here to leverage the suffix. So sometimes I might want to put a department name inside of here, for example. So I've got a prefix option and I've got a suffix option. If I want to include a department or a specific area of the building, I could certainly do that. There's a lot that you can do here. And then if you wanted to use just a stock separator, you could use this as well. So it'll actually use the separator between the prefix and the start sequence with the suffix. So if my separator was going to be like a period, for example, and I wanted A and I wanted, 3 or something for department name or whatever. I could do that and it would go A.100.3 because that separator is going to be used as a separator for all of them. Personally, if you're going to be doing different, variations of separators, sometimes it's hyphens and dots, then I just ignore the separator field and I put my prefix here, A dot, and then like a hyphen 3 or something, if that's what you want. So it would go A.100-3, and this is the value that's going to be incrementing as we click through the rooms. And that again is true on all of the different components here. Areas have it, spaces, doors, detail numbers have it, general has it here, prefix, separator, suffix, and start sequence with. So you can certainly leverage that. So when I'm using this, let's just do some basic numbering. I'm going to go to the floor plan here. And by the way, you'll notice that the renumbering tool kind of floats on top of Revit, and I can access other things out here while I'm working with this tool. I can drag views around. I can work with elements out here and just leave this tool open, perhaps on a separate monitor if need be. But I'm going to start with room number 100. And here's a cool little feature here. I recommend using this all the time. Of course, it's an option for you, but I recommend you check the auto swap, whatever that element is, number. And this way you won't get the message that pops up. You won't be creating duplicates and getting the message that says that there's a duplicate. It won't show up in warnings because it'll handle it. So right down here, it's kind of hard to tell because that section bubble's in the way, but let's move this over to the side here. We can see that this is CTC vestibule room number 100. Well, I'm going to take this entry and call this 100 in a moment here. And as I do that, we're going to see this number change to become 128. And as I change this BKA office to 101, we're going to notice this will change to be 122, and this will become the 101. It automatically swaps those as it goes through the process. So let's try it. Renumber, it grays out the dialog, and it puts me into a renumbering process, and it gives me the ability to pick rooms. And because I'm doing room numbering, I don't have to worry about trying to pick any other object out here. This is going to only allow me to pick rooms. This saves me a lot of tabbing around and trying to get an object. So I can click this. That's 100, 101, 102. In that case, that shouldn't have popped up. It'll actually swap it later, but that's fine. 103, 104, right? I can just go through and start picking these rooms in whatever the order is I want them to be renumbered. 105, 6 in this case, 7, 8. And I can go ahead and just renumber these around however I see fit in the order in which I pick. Sometimes it's nice and easy. It's even numbers on one side of a corridor, odds on the other. But in a lot of our buildings, it's not just a straight corridor. And so you need some subjectivity at place. You can actually just pick through and not have to click each individual room tag and type that number in. It's just click, click, click. You click through, and it'll set that numbering based on whatever that sequence is you're picking. Okay, so I've finished with the rooms. Let's do the doors now, because these doors no longer align with their appropriate room numbers here, and I want them to. I've got some new room numbers. I want to update my door numbers as well. So I'm going to click over to the doors tab specifically in this case, in this example. Now, if I want to prefix, I can still do that. This one's a little bit more involved of a tab. You notice over here I had prefix, start with, separator and suffixes. This one's a bit more involved because doors are special. Doors know what room they're swinging into or out of. So if I wanted a prefix with a building number, I could still do that. Or I can completely ignore that and just directly use the room-based numbering. And I'm going to grab my rooms based on which room the door is swinging into. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm pulling the room from the correct phase, in this case, new construction. So you might have rooms in different phases. You might be placing some existing doors in the existing phase, and you want the existing rooms. And then as you go to the new construction, you may have new doors or modified door numbers, and you want them to reference the properly phased rooms, and this lets me do that. And again, if need be, I can suffix if I need to. In my case, I'm not going to do any automatic suffixing, or I'm not going to do any manual suffixing. I'm going to let it suffix itself, and it will do that when it finds doors of the same within the same room space. It'll actually automatically put an A or a B on there if for a default. But I'm going to go ahead and hit renumber here, and we're just going to start clicking through. There's room 101, or door number 101 pointing into room 101. So I'm just clicking through and picking these, and now in this one, we're going to take a look at something special. I guess I didn't click that room earlier like I had intended to, but if I pick on this door and I then pick on this door, you'll notice that this automatically goes 118A, and this one automatically now is 118B, right? So that's pretty slick that it can help me just by picking that, and I can ignore that lettering down here because when I pick the next door, it automatically resets itself. Now, if I didn't want letter-based suffixing on those doors, I could have put a 1 here, and then when it finds multiple doors in the same place, it would do 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, again, it's all up to you as to how you want to set that up. But it's just simple for me to click through and get these to renumber as I see fit. So that's just rooms and doors, and the same thing works for areas and spaces. In fact, the cool thing with spaces is I can pick up on the rooms behind them. Of course, you can just use the default Revit space numbering, auto numbering there. Grid lines are pretty nice here if you're structural and you want to do grid line based numbering, because again, they have to be unique. And let's show another example here of things needing to be unique. I'm going to do detail numbering. So let's click over to the wall sections sheet here and take a look at numbering of details or drafting views or just any view on a sheet. Looking at this here, normally if you click on a view on a sheet and you want to change its number, like I want this to be number 1 here at the top right corner, it doesn't even give you the option of saying, yeah, I understand that there's a duplicate, I'll handle it. No, it stops you in your tracks and you have to enter something unique. So if I want this to be detail 1, I have to search through my sheet, figure out where the real detail 1 is, or the original detail 1, make it something else, and then I can come back and number this. Well, that's frustrating. If I'm, 5 minutes before printing a couple of sheets and I just want to get my numbers all set up correctly, if somebody moves some views around or put some new views on the sheets and rearrange some stuff, I want to make sure it's right. Now, you're probably going to have your own numbering schema that you like to do, and that's totally good. You can do things like letter number combinations. Maybe I have like A1, through A5 on the top row, and then I've got B1 through 5 in the second row. Perfect. Go in there, prefix with A, start with detail 1. here, and then just auto swap your detail numbers and start the renumber process. Click through your views. That's great. And then escape once, put in a B 1 2 3 4 5. Escape, put in C 1 2 3 4 5. Whatever. In my case, I like just straight up numbering schemas. And personally, I like the lowest number being at the top right corner of my sheets. I know it's weird. X contractor here, it's just how I prefer it. 1 2 3 going vertically down the sheet. And then I know that the higher the number, the further back I have to roll the sheet set. That's just how I prefer it. Everybody's got their own way of doing it. You do your way in your firm. In my case, I'm going to number this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. And right now I've got two here, 3 here. I've got 1 9 5. Like it's all over the place right now in my sheet. So when I click renumber, I did check the auto swap, so I don't get stopped in my tracks when I'm renumbering. And all I have to do is just click through 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Simple, and I'm done. And it's auto incremented that all the way up. But I'm done. It's numbered all these views. And if I had 20, 30 on a sheet, it would still be super simple. And it's not that big tedious chore of going through and doing the manual renumbering process. And if I had more sheets to do this on, it would be just as easy. Start over at number 1, click renumber, click, 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 done, and I'm good to go. Doesn't take very long. So you can also do this with any other element. One of the things I use this for very heavily in the MEP space is VAV boxes and air handling units. I like to prefix VAVs with VAV dash. And I like to start my sequence with something like 01, or maybe I want to use the floor number 100 or something like 101, whatever. Or maybe I'm going to tie it to a piece of mechanical equipment and I want to prefix with not just the VAV, but also indicate the piece of equipment that it's associated to. I can do that with the prefixing and suffixing, and then simply put in whatever my numbering schema is, auto swap the mark value in case it's used by something else to avoid any warnings, and click renumber and just click through objects. And it's going to automatically number them in that mark parameter value based on this property here. And it saves me, again, a ton of time because I can simply renumber all rooftop units, all the RTUs or all the AHUs or pumps or whatever. I can just put in the prefix, start with a number, and click through and have it done, and it saves time. And of course, because of how Revit works, when the object is updated, the schedule is updated and the tags are updated. And that's just saving me time, but I don't have to manually type in values. All right. So I've gone through the general workflow of renumbering. Once again, CTC Software tab, renumbering command here. It's one of the light green colored tools, which means it's free. And you can renumber rooms, areas, spaces, doors, grids, detail numbers, specially. Those are special numbering processes that go into special parameters and values. And then there's the general one here, which can renumber any element, provided you're putting the data into the mark parameter value for that instance-based numbering. All right. Huge time saver. And for a free tool, man, that can really, have an immediate return on the investment there if you're leveraging that tool in your daily workflows. I want to thank you for the time that you've given us today. And we always enjoy having you in our live webinars, our live presentations, and encourage you to take a look at our events portion of our webpage when you go download these tools and see what other tools we have up and coming.